set with my hand in the controls. This one right on my right hand is steering. So I just I rotate the circle, and it operates the steering wheel. On my left hand over here, I've got gas and brake. Gas is back, pulling back like that, and brake is forward like that. So, all the gears and all the what are called secondaries, that's your AC and stereo and things like that, are operated with these touch pads here, which I use this stick. Okay. So press window. Other things over here at fan.
What happens if you drop your stick?
If I drop that stick, I have a backup stick. What happens if I drop that stick? Hopefully, I'm able to drive somewhere and have someone help me retrieve one of the sticks and put it back in the receptacle there. If that's not the case, I can probably call somebody with my phone. If that doesn't work, then I don't know. That's plan D, I guess. Got to figure that one out. The blinkers and the horn and the lights and the wipers are all done with a pad right here by my left side of my head. So I press, you see the little black pad, and there's a little black button you can't really see from this angle, but I hit it with my head on it, and it activates the you know, whatever control I'm trying to do, the blinkers or whatever. Let's see what else. The on and off is a button here as well, right in the middle, the red one. And then I've got another release button that will let my chair out of the lockdown that holds it in place. And then the GPS is voice activated, so I can tell it. It's not programmed at the moment, but it will. I can tell it to look for an address. That's kind of.
Let's see you drive.
You want to see me drive, right? That noise you hear is the hand controls operating the steering, the steering wheel, which has been removed, but it operates the mechanism. So let's drive around the block.
So you can be completely independent.
I am very much more independent than I was before, absolutely. And it opens up the world to do a lot more things that I was accustomed to doing that have kind of been a bit of a challenge the last 6 or 7 years. And there was a time that I did drive for a few months, but I hurt my back and wasn't able to drive anymore for a while. And I now have a different system that's easier for me to operate, and I've had time for my back to heal. So it's been a long time coming. Go around the block.
How do you like the way this vehicle rides?
In general, I like it a lot. It's a Honda Odyssey 2016, and it's smooth. Just seems to be a really well-made vehicle. I've had an Odyssey before, which I liked a lot, And then I had some other cars, some other vans I did not like so much. But this one is, so far it's been great. It's been great. Very happy with it.
Did they teach you how to drive it?
I went through some training with the Shepherd Center in Atlanta. They're a spinal cord injury center, and I went. I did some evaluations with a guy from there, and once we got everything installed, he drove around with me for a while to make sure that I was comfortable, and he was pleased with how well I was doing, and I was pretty pleased with it too. And so he cut me loose, let me go on my own, and quicker than a lot of the people that they train. But I reminded him that I'd driven for many years prior to needing this type of system. It was just a question of adapting this system to what I already knew how to do. And so, but it's there's definitely a learning curve no matter what. And it took me probably a month or so to get really, I would say, for the most part, comfortable with the system.
So if you were to give any words of wisdom to someone who might be considering driving a vehicle like this for the first time, what would you say, what advice would you give to them?
Take it slow. And don't worry about how people behind you are perceiving your driving. Are you driving fast enough? Are you doing whatever? You know, I don't care how anybody else feels about it. So I would say, cut yourself some slack and give yourself some time to get good at it. But also, I would say that if you've gone through the training, and then just trust yourself and go, but take it slow. And there's all the time in the world. You don't need to worry.
How might they consider overcoming any fear?
The way, in my opinion, to overcome the fear is going to be learning about what the options are first. And you do that by working with someone who's a real expert. And that does not mean family or friends or physicians who don't know, which is most people. So I would not listen to what anybody says who's not an absolute expert in this kind of technology. So that's the first thing. And they're going to give you, based on what they assess your skill set as being, they're going to give a recommendation of what equipment you need. And then, assuming you've got the ability to fund that, then just do it and figure out the mechanics later. One of the mistakes I would make is I had a false impression that I needed to have everything figured out before I just moved forward. It's not the case. Matter of fact, you can't figure it all out before you move forward. So just make the commitment to do it, lean on the experts' advice, and then just go do it. And it's going to be terrifying. It was to me, even though I've done this a number of times already, with the new system. It's unnerving. But that's why I only drove around my little neighborhood first and never exceeded probably 20, 25 miles an hour for a few days. And then I gradually bumped it up and gradually bumped it up. And then at some point I knew I needed to get on the freeway for the first time, but just didn't quite have my nerve up yet. And then I was late for an appointment, and the only way to get there on time was to get on the freeway. So I just took a deep breath and swallowed my fear and got on the freeway, and it was much easier than I expected. And from that point on, I haven't been afraid of that. So it's I've always believed in this kind of situation that you get over the fear by doing, not by thinking. You just have to do something until you're comfortable with it. And that's true, certainly true with this.
What about for naysayers? People who might try to talk you out of doing it.
It's not their life. So I would say, if it is your desire to learn to drive and to become independent again, then you shouldn't listen to anybody say you can't. And there will be people probably who say you can't. Even though I have a history, a track record of proving people wrong over and over and over on these kinds of things, still people say I can't. But it's not my problem, and I don't listen to it. You shouldn't either.
Would you like to share how you maneuver in and out of your Honda Odyssey?
Yeah. I actually won't be able to get out right here.
No?
No, because the truck.
Okay.
But the way I do it is I turn the van off, and then I release the chair, I back up. I've got some buttons on my chair there for the remote for the van, and I press one of the buttons and it opens the door, and I just roll on out down the ramp. So these vans come with a built-in ramp that deploys when I open the door. It's very easy to operate, and this really is geared towards people who can't do much physically. It just takes motivation and some determination to figure out some of the challenges, and there are a lot of challenges with this stuff, but nothing that you can't overcome if you're motivated to figure it out.
And what is the feeling that it gives you to have this kind of freedom?
It's like this, a lot of what we do, at least in most people in this country, is out of the house, right? And unless you live in a place like New York City where you don't really need a car, we're very reliant on our own vehicle to get us around. Most people are. And being in a chair, it makes it really hard to do those kinds of things without either someone driving me or my ability to do it myself. Mass transport is just not really always a good option. It's hard to get around. It takes a long time. So for many years, I was reliant on other people driving me, which mainly they were happy to do, and I appreciated it. But it's the little things sometimes that would be hard to orchestrate. For example, a friend visiting from town, they don't know where they're going to be, exactly what time. It had to be wide open. It could be any time between 1 o'clock and 8 o'clock at night, okay? So, it's not always practical for me to have someone on standby at a moment's notice to take me where I want to go. So I either have to rely on public transportation, which, like I said, is sometimes not very timely to do that. And then, or I've got to be able to do it myself. So me being able to drive now, it just removes that as a barrier. It's no longer an obstacle. And that actually happened. I had a friend visiting from out of town, and she wanted to meet sometime in the afternoon. And I said, fine, just let me know when you're ready. And I knew generally where she was going to be. So I drove to that area, hung out for a while, and she called and said, we're going to be at this location at this time, which was only a few minutes away. And I was there right when she got there. So, it opens up those kinds of things. Going to a movie by myself, I did that for the first time in a long time. Just going for a drive, just enjoying being outside on a beautiful day, and where I live in Atlanta, I could do a lot in my chair, but it still was limiting. I mean, Atlanta's a big place, and there are a lot of areas that I couldn't get to efficiently in my chair. So it opens up the whole city.
So are you open to people contacting you if they want advice on how to facilitate a vehicle like this for
Yeah,
themselves, or
sure.
companies asking for your input on how
Sure.
to